Okay, here's the downloads. I'm going to open up the final one. Unzip it, maybe. Okay, there it is. And this is what it'll look like when it's done. So it'll animate. We're going to stick a YouTube video in there. And incidentally, um, this Edison edition of the movie was believed to have been lost. And a guy found it in his basement in Cudahy, Wisconsin. So the movie's no longer lost. And then we have the 1930s. And what's funny to me about this is that this was a very horrific film for people at that era. And then they did a sequel to it because the first one was so popular. And then they did another sequel, and they kept going through it. And then eventually it started turning into a comedy, and then it was a comedy. So it just goes from horror movie to comedy as people get used to it stuff. But anyway, this is what we'll be building. So, and I just finished doing this, if I can remember, at Maya today. They're a week ahead of you, so they got the CSS. Oops, that's, we'll just save it. They got the CSS, which is what you'll be getting next week. Okay, so that is where we're going to end up. Actually, this is all we're doing tonight. So this is what our page will look like at the end of it. And we're going to add the jQuery tonight, just so you have something you can scroll through. But basically, this is it. And this is all I expect from you with the Treasure Island piece. I don't expect any more than this because we're just learning HTML right now. And then we start learning CSS, you can make it a little bit better. Okay, so with that, we'll open up the start file. And I'm just going to get rid of the ending files because we don't need them right now. All right. Now, inside here, there's the Frankenstein text. And what I basically did was copy stuff from Wikipedia. And you can see the first few came out during the Depression. And then 42, 43, 44, and 45, the next 4 came out during World War II. 48 was the Abbott Costello one. And anybody know who Abbott Costello was? Who's on first? Who's the guy's name on first? He did, that's who, the comedy routine. They were real popular at one point. And then finally, Young Frankenstein, which is a Mel Brooks movie, came out in '74. So I'm not condoning you watching any of these films. I'm just using them because they had movie posters. All right. So here's all the graphics. We have movie posters in there. We got a couple of stills we can throw in to make the page more interesting. And I'm looking for, and hopefully I stuck it in there. Yeah, if not, we'll save it. All right. So how do we start? Well, what we want to do first is boot up Dreamweaver. And I'm just going to get rid of these things that I've been working on. All right, so I'm going to start a new site. And I'll just call this one Frankenstein HTML. And then I'm going to navigate to that folder on my desktop. So here's the HTML folder. I'm just going to choose that and click Save. I can't tell you how important it is to let Dreamweaver know that your site exists and to set up a site folder. And most of the errors I got in the last 2 weeks from Maya was simply that students did not set up a site folder. The site folder is what's going to end up on the server. So links and images and CSS and JavaScript all linked together in the site folder. And you just basically copy the site folder over to the server the way you would copy a folder over to a USB drive. You just click it and drag it and let it go. And it uploads it to the server and then it's on the internet. So we'll get more into that. But yeah, the first step is always setting up the site folder. If I double click on the text file, you'll see that it's a text file, just like Felix was. You'll also notice there's some weird characters. There's one. I just saw one. Here's one. Now I'm going to blow this up a little bit for you people in the back. Hopefully it'll work. There we go. Is that better? That's got to be better. Okay, so this is one of the weird characters. This is why you don't use word processors to do your coding, because you'll end up with weird characters and a whole bunch of stuff that won't make any sense to the browser. So never use Microsoft Word as your HTML editor. Always use a simple text editor or a IDE, integrated development environment like Dreamweaver, or a code editor, one specifically made for code like Brackets. All right, so now we're going to get started on this. And I handed out the code right here on the handout so you can follow along. Usually what happens is you'll look down and I'll move on, and then you'll look up and you won't know what I typed. So by handing out the code, and there's 11 pages here simply because all the Wikipedia stuff's in there too. But we'll end up with something like this when we're done. So what I want to do first is, they're slow.
No, they just vary the way.
Oh, yeah, it is kind of like awful. I wish I could.
Can we like overlap this? Give them on the board.
It's an interesting lab because I can't see anybody's face. I'm just. So what I'm doing here is I'm changing the txt to an h.html. So once I do that, I just chose the name of the file and I typed in HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Sometimes you'll just see HTM, which is fine. If you stick with one, make it consistent throughout your site. It doesn't matter which one you use. You'll see me using HTML throughout the semester. And then it's going to ask me, do I want to keep text or do I want to use HTML? I'm going to use HTML. And then I'm also going to change the name of this to index. The way servers work is they always look for an index file. If they can't find that, it looks for a home page. If it can't find home.html. If it can't find home, that looks for default. If it can't find default, it errors and you get the directory. So now if I were to look at this in a browser, you can see that all our very nice paragraphs, everything's gone. And we got weird characters going on in here like this one. And we got to take care of all that. So the first purpose of hypertext markup language is marking up the page with tags so that the browser can read it and present the information. And remember, the history of HTML is an academic background. It was from scientists, created by scientists for scientists. When graphic designers got a hold of it in the 90s, they did things which HTML was never intended for. And that's why they invented CSS. So at any rate, to take care of this problem, we will open up our index file. And notice in the code state, everything's fine. Okay, it's only when we went to the browser that we had problems. So the first thing I'm going to do right here is add an H1 tag for my Frankenstein Movies Universal Pictures. Now, I'm going to delete this first part. It's the history of Frankenstein, and we're not going to use it. I just want to show out how weird this is. All right, Frankenstein was written by Mary Shelley, and Mary Shelley, and I think it's Percy Shelley, went off on a weekend, her and her husband, and this is kind of like 5 Steps of Kevin Bacon or whatever it is, but at any rate, she wrote Frankenstein on a bet. They had this thing, it was Lord Byron, Mary Shelley, and Percy Shelley, and they decided to write a book and try to scare each other with it. So she came up with this one. She said it was based on a dream. Okay, fine. Lord Byron was her guess, and Lord Byron was pretty much an adventurer. He got married, and his wife became pregnant, and then they had a daughter, so he left them. And the daughter's name was Ada, and Ada Lovelace is considered the first programmer. So that's how it all ties in with programming. So there you go, Mary Shelley's connection to programming. At any rate, you can delete this. Well, I thought it was interesting. All right. This is going to end up being navigation. So what we're going to do is make an unordered list out of this. So I'm going to put some ULs right there. And when you have a UL, you put an LI for list item. So I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to paste these down. And it's, is there a faster way to do this? No, but there's tedious parts with everything. I mean, I close off the first one, and then I go down the line here, copy it, and just paste it after each one of these. Okay, so now if I look at it, it looks like this so far. All right, obviously this is a problem, this character right here. So that should be a typographic single quote that curls inwards. So I'm going to select this character right here, go to Insert, slide down to HTML. At the very bottom here it says Character, and then right over here there's right quote, left quote. I'm going to choose Other, and then get this chart right here, and I think it's this lower one in the lower left-hand corner, and I'll click OK. All right, so this is a special character in HTML. Look, there's our friend, the hexadecimal number. It's got a hashtag to begin with. It's 8217. It ends with a semicolon. So whenever you're using special characters, you start with an ampersand, a hashtag, and then the numbers for the thing. So now if I look at this in Chrome, I can blow up, and you can see that it's the correct mark right there. Okay, so this is eventually going to be a nav. So I'm going to throw some nav tags around this. And I can grab all this and hit tab. And this is strictly for me. I tab it again so I have the indentation for me as a programmer so that I can distinguish what's going on in the page. So you'll notice that I can collapse these things just by clicking on the arrows. So if these things get in your way, you can collapse them pretty much. Okay, let's see, how do I want to do this next? I want to start off with the sections. So I'm going to put in a section heading, and I'm going to close it off. And what I want to do is put in an ID right here. And in the ID, I'm just going to put some Z's. Okay, so we're going to have a section for each one of these movies, and there's how many of them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them. So we're going to need 10 of these guys here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. The next thing I want to do is I want to grab these right here, copy and paste in each one of these things the name of the movie. So this is kind of the tricky part here because I gotta make sure I grab each one of these things. So there's Bride, and it's easy to get lost. House of Dracula. All right. So that'll be every single movie is going to have its own section. Okay. What we want to do now is we want to give these things IDs. So what I'm going to do, okay, here's the first one, Edison's Frankenstein. I'm just going to double click on the Z's, and that's why I stuck Z's in there, because I could double click on them and grab all of them. So I'm going to double click on the Z's, and I'm just going to say Edison's Frankenstein. Now, the ID is tricky because there's no spaces. Don't put any spaces in there, and don't put any special characters in there, and make it all lowercase. All right? You can use camel casing. This would be a sample camel case where the first word is lowercase and then each successive word is uppercase. I'm going to just leave it all lowercase in this point. So I'm just going to call this one Frankenstein and this one Bride. And just go down the line here. And you can shorten it if you want to. I'm just spelling everything out. And finally, I got the last one here. All right. So now I have all my Ds and all my sections set up. And if I look at it right now, it looks like this. So I still got all this copy that needs work on it yet, but we'll get to that. And then this is actually where those sections end. So what I'm going to do for my own sanity is I'm going to start putting returns and pull out the sections. Usually I work in a much bigger screen. Big screens like you guys have, big screens are a lot more helpful instead of the little one. And you simply go through this. And again, doing this is simply for me as the developer. It has nothing to do with how it's going to look on in the browser. So everybody with me, or you need more time? Who needs more time?
Can you just pause for a second?
Sure. Before, so there's a big hunk of this missing. That's all right. It's in a YouTube video too, so. All right. Yeah.
So the BTN, like that,
The class name, yeah.
yeah, that's replacing the section after all the list, right? Or is it not replacing it?
It's not replacing the section, it's just adding to it.
What was before?
It's a section and then the ID. Oops, I shouldn't have a space in there. And then the name of the movie, and then some characters, and then the P tag with the class of BTN, and an anchor tag, which an href of pound top, and then the words top of page, and then a closing anchor tag and a paragraph tag, and then a closing section tag. So I'll give you some time to get all that going. It's beautiful. Okay, I'm going to hop over. There's design view and the live view. And what you want to do is make sure the properties panel is showing. And for right now, what I want to do is grab the title of the movie. And the format right here, I want to choose heading 2, like that. Let's see here. I'll grab this. These characters shouldn't be included with that, but we'll fix it later. So right now, we'll just grab the title. Go up to the heading, choose H2, and I'll just go down the line here with each one of these guys and change all of them into an H2 heading. Okay, and then that, I can see visually that all that stuff is there. Yeah.
I'm not able to find that.
Okay.
It's not working.
Okay, I'll be right over. Let's throw in some boilerplate now. So what I want to do is, and I put some carriage returns after line 1. I'm just going to put in the doc type HTML. And then line 2, I'm going to type in HTML, and like that. And then I got to scroll all the way down to the bottom and close off my HTML tag. Okay, so it's an opening tag. The HTML nests everything. And this might alleviate some of the errors we're getting with Dreamweaver by dropping this in place. And all the code I'm typing in is at the top of the page here. So now I'm going to put in my head. I'll just close that off. And then on the next line, I will put in my body. And let's go all the way down to the bottom again. And just before the closing HTML, I'll put in the closing body tag. And I'll go back up to the top. All right, in the head, I'm going to put in a meta tag. And then I'm going to put in a space and say character set. And I'll type in a U, and it's UTF-8. And I'll close that off. And then after that, I'll put in a title, close that off, and I'm just going to copy the H1 tag here and make that the title. Now nothing ever goes between the closing the closing head tag and the opening body tag, so don't put anything here. You can tab these things in if it helps you visually to see stuff better.
What was the title name again?
I just copied the H1 tag here and pasted it up here. It still isn't working?
I figured out why it wasn't working because I didn't have the doc type and stuff.
Yeah, that's probably, it likes that. That's why it jumped in there.
It likes that. Because now it's working.
Yeah, because it knows it's a doc, it's an HTML doc. In fact, you'll see most of the red numbers disappear now. So, believe it or not, we're more than halfway done. It's just, okay, so I'm going to show our properties window here, and you may have to refresh it. In fact, you should refresh it, and then you'll see it, it'll look like this. You'll have a space for the link and everything else. So what I want to do is I want to grab the first LI. Well, first of all, let's grab the section name of number 1. I'm going to copy this to my clipboard. And the reason why I'm copying it is so I get the exact spelling, and if there's a misspelling in there I can't see, it's going to have the misspelling too. So they have to be exactly the same. So what I'm going to do now is grab this text right here, come over to my link, hit a pound sign and paste. And what that's going to do is it's going to drop an anchor tag around my title, and it's going to give me the href. And because of the hashtag means stay on the same page and look for an ID of Edison's Frankenstein. And then it finds it here. So I'm going to go through each of these, copy this one, grab the Frankenstein, come over here, pound, paste the ID name, and hit enter. And I'll go through each one of these to build up the links.
Could you go through that again?
Yep, I got to go through it 9 more times. So I'm going to come down to the third one, Browdet Frankenstein, copy this to my clipboard. Come over here, grab the title, just the title. In the link box, I'll hit a pound and paste the name of the movie I copied and hit enter. Come down here to Son of Frankenstein, copy that to my clipboard. Come up here, grab this, type in a pound, paste, enter. See, and every time I enter it, it adds the HTML for me. So next movie is Ghost. Copy that, select this, pound sign paste. Come down here and grab the Wolfman. Paste. House of Frankenstein. Paste. Come up here, grab this one. Paste that. And I got 2 left. Abbott Costello. Grab this. Put in the pound sign and paste. And finally, Young Frankenstein. And paste it. All right, so now actually my links are all set up. In fact, if I go over to Chrome here, I'll zoom out a little bit, I can click on these and it jumps down to that section. Bride of Frankenstein will drop there. Notice when it drops down, it does, like if I do Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, I click on that, that's the thing that's at the top of the page right here. Oops. So, and I got some errors of mine. So while you're working on the navigation, I'm going to fix this because the H2 tag on each of these is in the wrong spot. What's that? Yeah, you have to put pound in the link name, but not the ID. If you don't have the pound sign, it doesn't work.
I noticed.
And I want to show you one cool thing about Dreamweaver.
HRF equals hashtag top, and then, yeah, and then you type in top of page, and then you close your A, and then you close your paragraph.
Now, one of the things about Dreamweaver is, see, I have the House of Frankenstein and then my letters and the closing tag here. Rather than cut and paste that, I can select it, wait until my cursor turns into an arrow, and just click and drag it and let go, and it'll move it. So that's just something that's part of Dreamweaver. Yeah, my machine made a mistake, so I don't need this to be in the title. So you can see all the Z's are now part of, because what we're going to do eventually is cut out this text right here and paste it where the Z's are. I'm sorry, what? Uh-huh. Let me see recording. The next thing we want to do for each section, like here's section, I'm going to put a return before the title, and then I'm going to find the poster for it. Now you would think Adobe, if I rolled over this, Adobe would show me what poster it is, but it doesn't. So Edison's Frankenstein, here's the Edison kinetogram. I can let go and just drop it in place. And now when I roll over this, it shows me the poster. Okay, so that's the first one. Then I'm going to do Frankenstein. Now Frankenstein has a poster, and it also has a mugshot of him. So I think it's this one. Yep. Then I'll scroll down here, and I'm setting all these images before the title but after the section. So then we'll do Bride of Frankenstein. But before the title. And then I'll just show you how these first three look right here. And they look like this so far. It's Frankenstein.jpg here. And like I say, when you roll over them, if it's the wrong one and you put in the wrong one, just delete it and put in the right one. So there's Bride of Frankenstein, and the still is from the movie. And then Frankenstein's monster, I think, is the still of the thing. And do Son of Frankenstein. So every one of these will have a poster. Okay, so now you can scroll through and see if you got them all. And we do, or I do anyway.
What's the one for the Abbott and Costello one?
Yeah, I'm sorry, it'd be Bud Abbott, Lou Costello.
The bride one, is it the Bride of Frankenstein or the still one?
The still is from the movie. It'll go inside the copy. The bride is the poster.
Okay.
And the Frankenstein's monster is the still. And the Frankenstein is the movie poster. And I got one more kind of tedious part to do, but then we'll be done. And hopefully my plan will work. If not, we get to do it the hard way. Does anybody need more time, or should I keep going? All right. This will be the last thing to do tonight. I'm gonna, like, here's the copy, all right, and I got the title in there so I can delete it. I can grab this whole paragraph right here. Now, underneath here is there's a little pencil with a tag on it. It says wrap tag, and you would just put a P and enter, and it wraps the whole thing in a P tag. And then I'm going to cut this to my clipboard, go up to the Edison's Frankenstein, double click on the Z's and paste.
Where was that pencil at?
It's in the left hand column here. It's the third one, wrap tag is what you're looking for. And you get to go through each and every paragraph here and wrap it like that. And that'll be fun for you. And if you don't hate me yet, you probably will when you're done. But just remember, I'm trying to help you get a career going here. So. And you may have to hit the enter key twice. And quite truthfully, I don't really care how many paragraphs you have. You don't have to be that exact because it doesn't really matter. It's just an exercise in HTML, so you don't have to be perfect. Just do it until, you know, it's mostly done, and that's fine. We're adding the copy to each one of the sections now. So this would be my Frankenstein. I cut this out, come up here, find the Frankenstein section, double click on those characters I dropped in and paste. See, and then when we're done, there's the copy. There's a copy for Frankenstein, and so on. I'll just keep going down the line till they're all done. Now, is there an easier way to do this? Another way to do this, but I have to start off with a clean text file again. And I'll just show you how to do one of them, so I got to find where that thing is. Oops. All right, here's my text file. If I open it up in a text browser, I just want to make sure that I put returns in the text browser in between each of these. So that's kind of tedious too, but at least you're not dealing with the tags yet. Okay, and then once that's done, I can grab all this, cut it to my clipboard, go over to the design view, double click on those Z's, and then paste. Oops, it can't be the live view, it's got to be the design view. And then in the code, you'll see that, well, sometimes it puts the BR tag in there, and other times it puts the right thing in there. So it's not foolproof either. It might be a little faster. I don't know. It's both kind of. But you notice too, it put quotation marks in there, which are the wrong ones, by the way. So we'd have to go back and fix that anyway. So I don't know. Whatever your, choose your poison, I guess, is the. But this is why you make, what softens this is the mere thought you'll probably be making $75 an hour. So that might soften it a little bit for you. Or you could just type in P's and then type off the closing tag. That would be another way to do it. Just as a warning, if you watch Young Frankenstein, it's very vulgar because it's by Mel Brooks. So if you don't like his type of humor or you find it offensive, then don't watch it. And I'll probably end up redoing this exercise for this school so that maybe paintings, from Bible scenes or something like that. All right, let's see, where's this one? You notice I'm not, I'm doing the exercise too. It's not like, I'm right there with you. I'm doing your pain right now. So in the past 3 weeks, I think I've done this 3 times, so. But it's worth it. Now, depending on how big the job is and how much money you have, you might have copywriters and editors. You might have one copywriter that's doing the editing too. You might have to be the editor. It just depends on the size of the client that you're working with. And some clients are web savvy. Most of them are not. They have no clue how it works or how to do it. Some of them try to apply stuff that worked in the 1990s and market it that way, and that doesn't work anymore. So it's very interesting stuff. For those of you that are majoring in marketing, it's going to be fun because it'll be changing all the time. Yeah, I got mine done. So you can just delete the extra spaces. And when we start the CSS, we won't be using your files. We'll all be starting from the same file. So like I say, just do the best you can. If you don't finish it, it's not a big deal. There's a lot of copy errors in here, where special characters that need to be dropped in. But I'm not going to torture you by making you do that right now. Just make you aware that they're there. And all that just so it works like this. And then we didn't add the link to the top of the page yet, or did we? I don't remember. It goes to the top of the page. The link should be right after the body tag, and I'll just give it a div. It could be an anchor, an ID, an empty anchor, href equals, I'll do a div because you need an ID, and I'll just call it top, and then I close off the div. So that could be, it happens right before the h1 tag and the body tag. And this will allow the jQuery to work. If without this, the jQuery won't work on scrolling, because that's the last thing we're going to add so that you can see how cool it is, and then we'll be done for the night. So if you don't finish it up, that's fine. You got a taste of it. That's all I really wanted to give you. Unfortunately, I forgot to put the snippets, I think, on Blackboard, so we're going to open up the final file project and pull the jQuery out of that. So I'm going to find the final Frankenstein with CSS. Where is it? And then I'm going to open up the final index page. Oh no, I got it in the jQuery. There's a special file here called jQuery. So in the one you downloaded first that showed you the final page, there's a whole text file in here with the jQuery. Just double click on that. You copy the whole thing to your clipboard, and you go to the very bottom. And the reason why you paste it at the bottom and not the top is because when a server downloads a script, it stops the download process. So you'll just end up with a blank page. But by putting at the bottom all the HTML and CSS and the page renders, and then the JavaScript works. So the page isn't held up and your user doesn't think something's broken. And that's all it takes to get this thing to work. Save it, and now you can click and you can see it animates. And animate goes to Frankenstein, it goes down. I get to the bottom of the thing, it goes back up to the top again. So that is how it works. So in that, again, in that closing file, it says Frankenstein jQuery text. Just double click on that, copy it to your clipboard, and paste it in place. They are developing browsers that will simultaneously download the script and the HTML at the same time. So I'm just going through. I saw one red mark, and that meant I was missing an opening paragraph tag. Other than that, everything should be working. And that's all we're going to do on this tonight. So how many of you hated it? You did? You hated it? Oh, I'm so sorry. You'll like it though. You'll like it a lot once you get into the CSS part. And also,